west at a great speed, simply because there looks to be a fairly large storm coming, but I'm going to tempt it. I'm going to dare it to come and rain on my head. Don't have a rain jacket with me. David is dressed in, you got your rain jacket?
I do.
Oh, David's got his rain jacket. Definitely not going to rain. If it doesn't rain, it's David's fault. There's some dwarf mongoose here going absolutely crazy. Running around, you can hear them going pss, 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 pss. I think they're very excited by the change in the weather. They're chasing each other all over. This is so cool. They normally just sit and look at us and maybe eat something, but now they're actually having a play. This is brilliant. And now they know they're being watched. So they're a bit more nervous. One looks like it's going to come across the road. No, he's gone back. Disappeared. Okay, let's carry on. These are the dwarf mongoose, of course. Ooh, yeah, they're coming out. So sweet. And people often ask about meerkats, very famous animals from Meerkat Manor, apparently one of the most successful wildlife shows ever made. There's one actually looking at us right now. Just in the hole here. We're only sitting about 3 feet from them. I'll just make that call again. Dave, you go to the right, there's one looking at us. There you go, right in that hole. You see him there? Just zoom straight into that large hole. Up. There we go. Look at his ears. They've got the most human-like ears. He knows he's been spotted. Little pink nose. Now, this termite mound is actually not inactive. It looks like it's got some fresh building on it, so they're obviously sharing parts of it with the termites. So sweet. Another one looking at us, middle of the screen. Another one behind. They're so sweet. Now, we were chatting to Brian, of course, who did quite a lot of meerkat filming, and he reckons that these chaps, with his experience, would habituate like those meerkats did much faster than the meerkats. So we're thinking about doing something like that, but we'll see. So sweet. I mean, they are classic, these things, aren't they? Absolutely classic. Alrighty. Now, a dwarf mongoose is the size of a rat. It's about that big. That was about as big as an adult is. And so that is, what, Dave, about 20 centimeters long, head to tail. 20 centimeters is in inches. It's so difficult doing this all the time. 9 inches. Yes, 9 inches. One day I do hope that the world will eventually realize that, put their egos aside and choose one system with which to measure things. Is that a giraffe? It is a giraffe. Just in front of us. Go a bit quicker before he disappears. There's some thick bush there. So So these power lines, which are not, of course, a particularly attractive piece of the wilderness, but they're highly necessary. They bring us power, and they mean that we can, ironically, use a bit cleaner energy out here rather than using generators. So they are a necessity. We could, of course, just live in without electricity, but if you're trying to broadcast high definition to the rest of the world, you do need a certain amount of power to do so. Now, sorry, that giraffe is very unconfiding. It's just disappearing off into the bushes there. David, do you have a lighter on you?
I do.
I'll borrow it. Thank you. Boyd, I'm going to demonstrate something to you. You are worried, you say, is there any danger of a wildfire in the drought like this with all the lightning? Let me show you why there isn't. Now, even in the strongest possible wind, there is nothing here to burn. So if I lit a little piece of grass like this, right, it would burn a little bit like that. It would extinguish simply because there's a little bit of moisture underneath, but also look at the gap between the different pieces of grass here. So it might burn this section, and then it would have to jump a huge section here. Now the grass is very short, which means that even if this clump of grass here was to catch fire, it might flame a little bit up to there, and then it would drop down again. So this is actually one of the most thickly covered pieces of grass that we have on the reserve at the moment, and even were this to get struck by lightning, I think the chances of a fire out here are so small, and the chances of not being able to put it out are, well, they're negligible in this particular area. Now, these trees don't burn, and the big thing about fire out here is that it is born of the grass. The grass carries the fire. The trees do not carry the fire. It's unlike in a pine or eucalyptus or gum forest where the trees carry oil that is flammable. Out here, it's the grass that carries the fire. So if you don't have a grass sward, you don't have a fire. And so when there is a fire danger is after actually a good year of rain. The grass sward comes up, and it would normally be sort of standing around this high. And then at the end of the dry season, so at the end of the winter, around September, October time, then it's dry like this, but twice the length. Then if you get lightning, you can get a fire that runs. So out here, no, it's really not. It's not a risk at the moment. Thank you, David. Don't worry, everybody. I knew what I was doing there. Right, on we go. I'm sure there were some deep intakes of breath as I lit the felt on fire. Hello, Marianne in Arkansas. We're talking about drought, we're talking about dry, we're talking about temperature. Marianne, the last time we had a drought like this, in living memory, in other words, since records started being kept in 1904, that's 112 years ago, there has not been a drought like this. We have not had a summer this hot or a summer this dry before. Now, that is quite telling, I think, Marianne. And sorry, I'm just thinking quickly and just looking at the road here. No tracks there. So, Marianne, it is cyclical. Absolutely, we get droughts. As soon as this El Nino effect, which is there's the giraffe, which is not very confiding. There she is. That's much better. She's relaxed a bit with us now. So, Marianne, El Nino is cyclical. Absolutely. I don't understand it fully, but it is cyclical. But this particular cycle is much more severe than normal. And I've heard fairly horrible stories about the possibilities of it extending into sort of heading north and melting more of the polar ice caps. And that's obviously disastrous. Well, in the scale of the short-term scale of the Earth, it's disastrous. In the longer-term scale, I don't suppose it makes a huge difference. But we don't know. Betting on the weather is a bit like betting on the stock market or a roulette table. We just don't understand all of the variables. It's like trying to predict anything in biology. There are so many variables that we just don't understand. Now she's fascinated by us by being slightly terrified. She's really interested. Right, now let me just change the radio here, and I'm going to hope, beyond hope, that someone at Arathusa can hear me. Good afternoon, stations Arathusa. Are there any updates for the afternoon? You'll hear shortly if there are any. No. No, unfortunately, nothing. What that means, if no one is answering, it normally means that they're all on their other reserves, so they'll be on Elephant Plains or off down south somewhere. Anyway, we will carry on and we'll pop on there anyway and have a look-see. Gracie, lovely to hear from you. You say your silly doctors are still making you not watch safari as much as you want to, and you find it unacceptable. I also find it completely unacceptable, Gracie. I'm sorry about that. You say, would I please do a rain dance so that the animals can be filled with joy? Gracie, for you, of course, we will do anything. And I've just had Sam and David here both saying, yes, they'd love to do a rain dance for you. So at the end of the drive, we will make sure that we do a rain dance for you, Gracie. On that note, let's head across to Scott, and I'll see you on Arathusa.
Well, we've come across that same little zebra foal we saw earlier. We are back in the area where we are hoping to find any further sign of Carula lepidus. And these zebra have, interestingly, hardly been moving from this little patch. The whole afternoon we've seen them in the same general area. Let's keep forward and see if we can't get you some better views. Jealous that you guys are going to get to see James doing a rain dance. That's going to be most entertaining. It'll be interesting to see if he drags David and Sam along into that. And I'm told that is his plan. Very good. Interestingly, now I'm hoping now that we're nice and close, we're going to get you some views of some scars on the zebra's face. Not too sure what would have caused that, but very distinctive characteristic that we can use to monitor the development of this youngster for as long as it hangs around here on Djuma. Isn't it a cute little creature? It's got very brown tinge to it, and that could simply be that it's dirty. It does have longer fur than its mother, and it certainly does have a very brownish tinge to it. Now, why, I'm not too sure. But it could just be dirt and dustiness that's sticking onto his coat, or merely just a slightly different tinge. A little bit of a ginger tinge, I guess you could say. I'm hoping it's going to pronk around as it did a little bit earlier. It's got a very fancy running style where it appears to act like a dressage pony. Come on, go for a little trot around for us. No, it looks like it's going to try and have a little drink, but Mom is not interested. It's obviously not nursing time. Mr. Moustache, you would like to know if there is anything out here in the African wilderness that grows something that resembles a moustache. Well, elephants have got a very hairy chin, but anything above the lip, which is a moustache, I can't think of anything that has any kind of vaguely moustache-like growths. Goatee or beard, yes. Like I said, the elephants and a lot of the animals have got hairy chins, but what has got a hairy upper lip? I'm racking my little brain, but can't come up with anything. Please, if anybody does have any suggestions on this matter, feel free to share your thoughts with us. But I can't think of anything. Well, James has kindly helped us out with a seal, but we don't have seals here. I guess a walrus would be another very good animal that has a very distinct moustache, probably better than that of a seal. But even in the rainy season, we don't get any seals here, or when it's not a drought, rather. Nikki says a kudu, so I'm going to pull out a picture of a kudu here. I can't picture it. Nikki says there's a white something. Oh, well done, Nikki. You're right. There we go. That's it. Nicola wins. Ranger Orsty. Thank you. The kudu does have a white, very thin moustache. Good. Kirsty was saying a warthog. Possibly a warthog. Let's see what the warthog looks like in the book. You'd think after viewing them so much, we would be able to tell. At least I would, but I can't. So let's have a close look. Nah, Kirst, I'm sorry. There's nothing above the upper lip on a warthog. These are sideburns, not moustache. Very fancy sideburns. All right. Very good. There we go, Mr. Moustache. The kudu is one animal. I think that passes the moustache test. The hippo has a bit of a three-whisker moustache. And that was from somebody in Indiana. I'll get your name shortly. Possibly. Anyway, you know who you are. I didn't copy your name, sadly. It's a difficult name to pronounce. Nikki is trying to relate to me, but I can't seem to work out what it is. Buble or Vule or Duvet. Ezra. Thank you. Desiree or Ezra or Debbie. Oh, Desiree. There we go. Finally. Apologies for that confusion. Come on, Karula. Beautiful, cool temperature now. James Taylor, thank you very much for sending through some screenshots of your own moustache. That's very kind of you. Okay, well, apparently James has found some animals that he believes have some vague resemblance of a moustache, so go and see for yourselves.
Well, Other than the primate Scott Dyson, who has a very impressive moustache, and I imagine were he a Victorian gentleman, he'd have a tremendously impressive set of moustaches, I found 2 monkeys that could be considered to have moustaches. Now, unfortunately, I don't really have a picture, I don't think. Anyway, the red-tailed monkey, if you just zoom in here a little bit, you can see he's got a very... Oh, stop it. He's got a very impressive set of white moustaches. You can Google him, the red-tailed monkey, whiskers. And then, of course, the very severe-looking de Brazza's monkey, which has a sort of white goatee, which I think is quite amusing. Very amusing. I might actually grow one of those when I go completely grey. I think I'd look very nice with a white goatee. What do you think, Dave? Silence. Okay, that's fair enough. Right, there's the answer to that one then. Okay, on we go. And Debbie, you say that some birds have moustaches as well. Yes, good one. They certainly do. I can't really believe that we're discussing this, of course. This is a result of our man of mystery, Mr. Moustache. Where do we find you today, Mr. Moustache? Bermuda? The Outer Hebrides, perhaps? The Falkland Islands? Perhaps you're crossing the Drake Passage on your way to your next assignment. Watch your heads, everybody. All right, oh, elephant, big one, huge, massive elephant coming across. He looks a little bit musty, so I'm just going to drive slowly up to him in order to not incur his wrath and hope that he has a bit of a dust bath for us. Driving slowly up to an animal in Jigger is almost impossible, given the noise she makes. Let's stop here for a second, Dave, see what he does. We'll just check how he reacts to us. He's watching us quite carefully. Sorry about the aerial, everyone. I'm afraid there's naught I can do about that. I can't really move the car because of the angle and the thickness of the sand. Oh, he's magnificent, isn't he great? He looks like he's been at the Arathusa Dam, I think, probably having a proper swim as opposed to a dust swim. He's fantastic. I think we'll try and follow him for a little while. That's not his best end, of course. But what you can see, even at this end of him, is I think that the elephants here are looking a bit skinny. I think they're looking thin. And I think that is simply a result of the drought. They look almost like those desert elephants of Namibia. He's watching us quite carefully as he walks along. He's not feeding there, he's watching us, he's listening. His ears, you can very clearly see the opening to his ears there. You can probably even hear him breathing. Now, his size, everyone, he's standing at least 10 feet at the shoulder, so he's enormous. And I keep forgetting, of course, that the perspective on your screen is sometimes very difficult to get. I mean, a blue wax bill that you will see on your screen looks almost the same size as an elephant. Laura, this most certainly is not a pygmy elephant. You want to know where pygmy elephants live, and you've heard that they are endangered. Laura, pygmy elephant is not, strictly speaking, the correct term. I think you're probably talking about a forest elephant. And a forest elephant occurs in the forests of Central Africa, much smaller than this, probably about 2/3 the size, in fact even less than that. I think a big bull forest elephant only weighs about 3.5 to 4 tons. So about 2/3 the size of this fellow. And they'd certainly be considered threatened. I'm not sure that they're endangered, but certainly threatened. Elephant numbers, though, are plummeting. We don't hear about it nearly as much as we do when we talk about rhino and rhino horn. But elephant numbers, not in South Africa, but throughout Eastern Africa and other parts where the policing of national parks is not quite as good as it is here, we have tremendous issues with elephant numbers being wiped out. I'm not going to move from this particular area until he's moved up. He's stopping to listen to us every so often. He's picked up a stick now to eat, but he's not feeding completely comfortably. Every time we move, he stops and watches. You'll see as he walks, he just turns his head like from side to side to have a look. He smells like he's in must. Not a heavy must, but he certainly smells like he's got a bit of must. Now, must, for those of you who are new viewers, like Sem, for example, in Holland, must is an elephant bull's time of heightened testosterone, and that means that he is ready to mate and will be looking for an estrus female. It also means that he will be slightly more irascible, so slightly more easily threatened and irritated, and that means we're not going to push it with him. I can also smell quite strongly some lion or leopard dung around here. Oof, David, isn't that disgusting? Mm-hmm. Wow, maybe Shadow is close at hand. There haven't been any lions around here recently. This is the heart of Shadow's territory. It would seem to be the heart of Shadow's latrine. Now again, you can see that he is not feeding. He's listening to us. He's watching us. You'll just see his head turn slightly to the left every so often. And they've got tremendous peripheral vision. Apparently not so good directly from the side, interestingly enough, but he'll be watching us very carefully. So we'll keep our distance until we're in a much more open area. He's a lovely fellow. I think let's just follow him, especially as he seems to be leading us along a trail of Shadow's dung. Check over the side here for any signs of tracks. Don't see any at the moment. Now, Jackie's class, you're in Illinois. We'll just quickly look at the elephant still. He's just on the road there and still listening to us. Jackie's class, you're in Illinois. I think you're a 5th grade class, if I'm not mistaken. And you want to know, where is Karula? What has happened to her cubs? So for those of you who don't know, the Queen of Djuma, we definitely found in a den with a cub, at least one cub, about 3 weeks ago. Now, we then zoned the area, we just to leave her alone, give her space. We saw her outside of that area a few times, and we decided that we would go in and check after 2 weeks or so, which we then did, and she has then moved from that den. Now, we don't know if she still has cubs or not. We have not found another den, largely because we're not actually looking for it. And the decision is to let her be on her own for now. If we see her on the road, if we track her like we were tracking her this morning away from anywhere where we think she could have a den, then we will track her. But otherwise, we've been letting her be. The general consensus amongst the guides of the area is that the cubs are more than likely not made it. So it's more than likely that they haven't made it. So I don't want to disappoint you. There's a small piece of me that thinks she's still got them stashed somewhere, especially as we're seldom seeing her tracks on the road, which means that she's not moving around as much as she might normally be. So that's the update there. He definitely smells a bit in must. It's not a very strong smell, and the reason they smell is that they drip urine. They drip a kind of, it's not pure urine, but it's a kind of greenish substance. And it covers the inside of the legs, which we can't really see here, I think because he's been in the water. But you can definitely smell it. He's just chewing and he's watching us, you know. Those eyes are watching us. He's chewing a nice piece of stick. And I can hear to the left of that elephant, there's some others moving in the bush there. I think probably a herd. And he may well be tracking that herd. So we are now sitting at about 40 to 50 meters from him, which is about 150 feet. And I think that's a comfortable distance for us to be from an elephant like this at the moment. There's no need to push him any further. Now Tom, you say there is a pygmy elephant in Sumatra and Borneo, and thank you for that. So it must be a sort of smaller version of the Asian elephant, which of course is a different species from this altogether. The forest elephant and the savanna elephant are in fact the same genus. There's some people that consider them the same species. So the pygmy elephant is obviously related more closely probably to the, just here the elephants through there, to the Asian elephant. And thank you very much for that, Tom. That's fascinating information. This is why, for me, this is the best possible kind of a naturalist's job, because we get to learn all the time from our viewers. And thank you very much, Tom. The pygmy elephant of Borneo and Nicola, Sumatra is the word you were going for there. I think that's what we're going for, Tom. Nicola thought it was something else, not quite Sumatra. Anyway, there goes the elephant. He will be listening very carefully for the rest of that herd, hoping that there's an estrus female who will be receptive to his advances. And of course, if there isn't, there's nothing he can do about it. He cannot mate with a female that doesn't want to mate with him. Because of the awkward sort of nature of elephants, they can't jump, so she has to stand still for him. She has to almost reverse into him in order for them to mate. So she has to be very receptive. Rock and rolly, it's not white. You're looking there on the top of the back and you say, what's the white stuff? It's not white, rock and roll. It's just the light catching it. It's mud. It's actually black mud. It does look white. I can see exactly what you mean. It's black mud, very shiny black mud, obviously very clay rich, and it's just reflecting a lot of light. Now that 6-ton elephant bull has all but disappeared. Isn't that amazing? Look, he's hardly 80 kilometers from us, 80 meters from us. Now Lynn, you want to see an elephant track. Let's be better down in the drainage line there. Let's just see if he doesn't walk onto some softer sand, and then definitely we'll show you. It'll be about that big. So just over a foot and a half long. Yeah, I can see them, but you won't pick them up on the camera in this light on this road. Let's see if he doesn't walk through some softer stuff. This road's just getting stonier and stonier and stonier. But Lynn and I will definitely try. He's still up ahead of us there. So he's not going towards the herd that I can hear through here. Hello Victor Brown, you say you've been watching for a couple of months now, and elephants have quickly become one of your favourite. I think that goes for anybody who's watched elephants for any length of time. They are the most spectacular animals. Something tremendously calming about watching them, well, most of the time, and something tremendously impressive about them. I'm going to stop here again. He's definitely stopping every so often just to listen, so I'm going to drop my voice. Blowing dust on himself, just getting the parasites off. If you think how quietly he's moving through the bush there, he's almost inaudible compared with the noise of this vehicle. falls. Marvellous. All right, I think I'm going to follow this elephant for a little bit longer. We'll head up the road. While we're doing that, though, Scott has a scavenging carnivore to show you.
Well, there's something that's not quite right about this hyena's behavior. I'm not too sure what is wrong with it. It is in the same area that we did see hyena this morning, when some of you were lucky enough to get Brian doing a little bit of narrating. And, oh no, look closely, look at how much drool's coming from its mouth. And maybe it's merely the heat that's causing it to drool like this. The right eye, there's also a problem. Maybe it's been bitten by a snake. I don't know. But it is not in a good state of affairs at the moment, that's for certain. I'm keen to just keep an eye on it, obviously to try and work out what is wrong with it, and also because this is the area where we did have tracks of Karula heading towards. Now, when we went off on foot, we did see a hyena run off from its sleeping place. Let's see if it doesn't rub its face now in the ground. That might be a clue that it was in fact bitten by a snake, like I suggested. Again, just a theory, nothing confirmed. It was just that swollen eye coupled with that drooling mouth makes me wonder what is going on. Just also seems a little bit uncomfortable. It's not moving as freely as often hyenas will move, and it's kind of a little bit uncomfortable, it seems. So who knows? Let us know what your thoughts may be as to what may have happened to this hyena. I've never seen a hyena act like this, so I can't give a very educated guess as to what's going on, but maybe it's just the heat. Maybe it's a snake bite. Who knows? We were, interestingly enough, going to make our way to the hyena den after checking this area one last time for any further sign of Karula, but it looks like we may not get a chance to get there if we stay with this one. Rock and Roller, you mentioned that you hope it's not one of the mothers from the den. I don't think it is. And that's why I think it is almost a nomadic male, possibly. There were two of them that headed into this area this morning, one of which I saw run off from a sleeping place when searching for Karula, a female leopard whose tracks were moving here. So I don't think it's any of the mothers from the den. It would also be very far away from the den for a mother to spend her day, unless there is a kill very close by, which I don't think is the case. Hopefully I'm wrong. But yeah, I don't think it is one of the mothers, so we can take a deep breath there and a sigh of relief. Snoop and Charlie, I was waiting for somebody to put forward this suggestion that possibly it is rabid. That would be terrible. And yeah, again, definitely possible. But that would be the last thing we would want. A snake bite would be better, not possibly for this individual, but for the greater good of all the animals within the Sabi Sands. Rabies outbreaks are not what we want in an area like this. Well, I don't think, unless we were to sedate this animal and get a vet in to tell us what he thinks is the problem, I don't think we are going to get to the bottom of it, but some interesting behavior to see nonetheless. We are going to continue on and leave it there. And if we do swing past later, we'll obviously be able to keep an eye on it. As we could see though, it seemed quite relaxed, lying down there, not too uncomfortable, and possibly it was just the heat that caused it to be drooling like it was. Hello, Chase. In Jackie's class in Illinois, you'd like to know what poisonous snakes could have bitten the hyena. Firstly, Chase, I just want to correct you. It's a mistake that a lot of people make, including myself, before I was once corrected. Poison is something that you swallow. So if you eat it, it becomes harmful to you. Whereas venom is something that is injected to you that then harms you. If you drink snake's venom, it will not be poisonous. It is only if it is injected into your bloodstream that you are harmed. So that's something important to remember. So the correct term would be, are there any venomous snakes, or what are the venomous snakes, not the poisonous snakes? A whole long list. Chase, black mamba. We saw one yesterday afternoon, a brief glimpse of one, which was great. That's got highly toxic venom, as well as the puff adder would be another one. That would be more likely to cause swelling. There's a whole host of different snakes. The boom slang causes bleeding. And basically, out of all the snakes you get around the world, there's 3 different types of venom, but it's always generally a mixture of all 3. Some snakes may have more cytotoxic venom, which attacks your flesh and will cause you to maybe lose a finger if the snake bites you on the end of the finger. So it's a flesh destroying toxin or venom. The others are a nervous system. They're neurotoxic. They stop your heart from working, your lungs from working, your brain from working. They make breathing difficult. But if you can survive it, you won't necessarily lose a finger. So that's neurotoxic venom. And then you get hemotoxic venom, which attacks the blood, which will cause you to bleed profusely, and your blood won't be able to coagulate. So you'll basically just have very, very thin blood, and any orifice of your body will become an exit point for that blood. So those are the 3 different types of venom that you get with snakes around the world. Again, judging from that hyena's symptoms, a bit of swelling on the face, possibly a snake with cytotoxic venom, so attacking the cells. Again, just a hypothesis, but many different types of snakes are venomous out here. Craig Johnson, you would like to know what are the chances of seeing a puff adder? In this area of South Africa, not great. It's not a highly populated area with puff adders. I have seen a handful in the Sabi Sands in my entire 4.5 years of driving around here, but there are certainly other areas of Africa where they are more common. We had an incredible sighting, though, probably one of the best snake sightings I've ever had with you guys, with a puff adder, where we actually followed it slithering through the grass. I think it was looking for a mate. It was in winter, and that's when they do their mating. So surprised that it wasn't in the summer months, when you expect to see snakes more when it's warm.
So flat, of course, so it's quite difficult to see them. But there you can see those vast tracks. And they're about 1.5 feet long, the front ones, the back one's slightly shorter, but they're about 1 foot by 1 foot, I guess. And he's gone, unsurprisingly, straight up the road. We're just going to keep going slowly behind him. We have kept moving. The last time we stopped, he was sort of looking behind him a bit more and flapping his ears a little, which, when it's not a hot day, I think he was flapping his back leg. He's just indicating that we must keep our distance, otherwise he'll get irritated. Of course, you don't want 6 tons of irritated elephant bearing down on you. Now, Anna McDougall, Scott has been teaching you about venomous versus poisonous. and you want to know if a venomous snake is able to kill an elephant. I do not see this fellow anymore, so I'm going to keep my eyes out for him. He might be sneaked off behind a bush here. Anna McDougall, there is no snake that I know of that would have sufficient venom to kill an elephant. Many of the animals out here as well, of course, despite even the smaller ones, are not, in fact, they're kind of immune to the venom of snakes. And one great example of that is a honey badger. There's that wonderful footage of a honey badger. He was here. He's still going up the road. Wonderful example of a honey badger being bitten by a snouted cobra, I think it was. And the honey badger goes to sleep for 4 hours and then gets up and carries on. So some animals are just immune. Their physiologies will digest. He's still on the road. Their physiologies will just digest the venom. There he is. We may laugh, but it's quite difficult to. It's not difficult to lose an elephant this big. I tell you that because Nicola's laughing at me. She thinks it's very funny that I managed to lose this elephant. Larry, you want to know if we get Cape cobras up here? Mercifully, Larry, we do not get Cape cobras here. Cape cobras, ostensibly, if I'm not mistaken, in the south, in the Cape. It's starting to rain. I'm just going to put my little waterproof bucky on top here. Larry, Cape cobra, of course, a nasty neurotoxic venom, much like a black mamba's actually, and very similar effect. Not a snake you want to be bitten by. Well, you don't really want to be bitten by any snake, to be honest. But Larry, we get 2 or 3 different cobra species around here. The snouted would be the most obvious. We get a Mozambican spitting cobra as well. Every time I get to within this distance of him, he stops moving and turns his head and looks. So I'm not going to go any closer than this. This is fantastic. This is so awesome. Now, Judy, you're in Tuholu School in Washington, and apparently the kids are watching in the cafeteria. Hello, kids in Washington, in Tuholu School. I hope you're enjoying this elephant all the way from the wilds of Africa. It's absolutely awesome to have you watching us while we're over here. And please, feel free to talk to us. I don't know if you're allowed cell phones at school. Tweet us, #Safari Live, or questions at WildEarthTV. Welcome. Enjoy your lunch. Stay healthy, of course. And rock and rolly, you say, despite the fact that it's raining, we're still going to need a rain dance. Why? It's raining, right? The guys on the back of the car think we don't need a rain dance at all. It's raining now.
Could do with more rain.
We could do with more rain. That's Sam saying he does want to do a rain dance. Okay. All right, Sam. It's no problem.
Helps.
There goes the elephant walking off the road. He's just taking a shortcut. We've come to the end of our traversing area, of course. We're now moving on to, well, we're not going to move on to, but we are coming to the boundary of Simbambili, where I did by mistake make a foray the other day. Now, Neo-Lac, a very valid question. You want to know what happens if the elephant attacks. Well, ideally we run away at a great speed, Neo-Lac. So we'll just have a look here. There we go. There's a nice shot of him. So Neo-Lac, if he was to attack, now there are 2 ways of looking at this. if he was to demonstrate his discomfort with us, if he was to shake his head, he's demonstrating he's not that comfortable with us at the moment. He's watching me quite carefully. He's also decided to take the road we have to take. So, Neolak, if he was to shake his head, face us, and kind of take a few steps towards us, that would be a sign that he was uncomfortable and he wanted us to go away, in which case, unless we were silly, we would just go away. If he was to push through a charge, if we could drive away, then we would. If, however, we were in a position where we couldn't drive forward, we would have to try and stand our ground, clap, make a noise, and see if we couldn't make him stop. And so that's what we'd have to do. Now, he's going along the road where we need to go. I'll show you where we are. So, there is Arathusa. That is Simbambili, where I've been by mistake before. I hope no one from Simbambili is watching. And he has gone along that road there, that cut line, which is the road we have to travel to get back to Djuma. Okay. Right, let's go back across to Scott. He's got a little scrub hair. That's very exciting. We'll see you shortly.
Well, this is a sight that I've never been able to share with you. A scrub hare in the daylight, feeding. It even used its little paws earlier to scratch around and try and reveal whatever tiny little short shoots of grass remain. Oh! Let's see if we can't get you a few more views. And this is, again, thanks to the drought. This hare would not ordinarily be out at this stage of the evening, but it's desperate, it's hungry, there's not much food around. Look at its ears, look at those veins in its ears, and they are huge. This is so cool. Very, very white tail at that. Well, white and black, I guess. And you would have noticed I called it a hare, not a rabbit. There's some distinct differences between hares and rabbits. Rabbits live underground, whereas hares live above the ground. Rabbits have also got much smaller ears than hares, and rabbits will have more of a hopping motion, whereas hares will have more of a running motion. I'm told that one I battled to understand exactly, but there is a difference in their locomotion. Well, this is wonderful, but I fear that in this fading light, it'll mean that we will not get to... Ooh, what's that there, Vian? Oh, no, there's some Nyala off in the distance. I thought there was a pack of hyena descending upon us, but it's... Ooh, that Nyala bull's doing some philo-erection. It's a slow-motion dance. He's erected his mane all the way to his tail, trying to impress the ladies. Oh, there's a few tiny little droplets of rain falling. But nothing considerable. Let's continue on to the hyena den. We're not far away, but I fear that in this very low light, we're not going to get too many good visuals. But let's go and see. Let's go and see what happens. Nyala just shot across the road. I think that was, yeah, that was the same one that was doing the philo-erection. So a reminder for all of you, I'm not sure if James has reminded you, I'm guessing he has because Sam is on his vehicle, but there will be a new face behind the wheel of one of these vehicles tomorrow, and his name is Sam. He is younger than all of the presenters and not as experienced as all of us, but it's important that Wild Earth look for some new upcoming guides as opposed to old stale ones. So he has done a training course though in the Sabi Sands for 7 months. He'll tell you more about it though, but he is not as experienced as us, which is great. So it'll mean that a lot of the older viewers, this is in fact only if he gets the job, I guess, after his interviews, but I guess it means the older viewers will get to watch a younger guide grow, and the newer viewers will grow with a younger guide. So there's huge benefits in having a young guide, and like all of the lodges in South Africa, not all of them just employ older, experienced guides. All of them will at some point employ some young guides to bring some energy and youthful joy to the team. So I guess that's the angle that will be being worked with Sam. And from what little I know of him, he seems like a great guy, and he's really excited to take you guys on an adventure with him. And I think he'll not only be doing a drive tomorrow morning, but also on Saturday morning. So 2 drives that'll be worth tuning in for if you guys are looking for a change of scenery. Failing that, you'll have to wait until Brent and Jamie return from their leave, I think on the 4th of March. Then you'll get to be taken around by them. But until such point, it'll be James and myself. Okay, oof, it is very dark, but we may be able to get you just a few glimpses of the hyena. So I'm going to rush us down this bumpy road. Yes, Nicola, our roadblock is still in the road. You can't even really notice it, but it's done its job. Just on the left over here, we put these branches here to prevent people driving along what was a kind of track there, and then further beyond that there's another big log over there, because people were taking kind of 2 routes, which wasn't necessary. So to prevent unnecessary compaction of the ground, which prevents future growth unless it's replowed, we decided to put those logs there. Are we going to be in luck? Time will... Oh, yes, we are. We're not even going to be able to get to see the actual termite mound that is the den just yet, because we've got some hyena right here, and it looks to be pretty in November. Thank you, Nikki, for aiding me with that. I'm battling to tell who's here at the moment, not spending enough time to work that out. And it looks like November's enjoying a little evening snack before, I guess, Pretty heads off. And then I'm just going to try and roll forward ever so slightly, because there are some more VM to the left. Oh, that little cub wasn't too interested in what was going on there. And that's a youngster. It looks like it is coming back though. Here it comes. That's one of the newest additions. I think these are the January babies, and are still very black in coloration. Hello. Cute, and there's a few more hyena. I'm not sure, VM, if you've got an angle, you might not, scattered about the various burrows. Yeah, there we go. There's a few more wiggling about over there. So the reason why we don't illuminate the den is so that we don't interfere in any way with the sensitivity of, you know, mothers trying their best to raise young cubs, which are, of course, vulnerable compared to when they are larger. And by shining spotlights, we're just going to be attracting... Oh, that cub didn't like whatever was coming to say hello to its mother. It looks like there could be another hyena coming in. But basically, Oh, please can we vocalize? It looks like these two adults are thinking about it. Basically, by illuminating the den, we're just going to be creating unnecessary attention to it and also blinding the animals that are in the spotlight, allowing anything that is going to be creeping in from the shadows to have a very clear advantage over them. So it's just good practice not to shine lights on young animals, therefore den sites, and that is what we are sticking to here. Hello to Chris, who's in America but very close to the Canadian border, and you would like to know what... Ooh, listen carefully. We may get a vocalization. Come on. Call for us. Chris is wanting to know what is one of the sounds that is typical to hear when out in Africa on safari at night. And hyena are probably one of the most vocal of the animals in general in this area. Lion audio is another audio that you can expect to hear. VM, there looks like there's some more coming in here. So yes, hyena audio, lion audio, the rasping call of a leopard. A lot of owls will call at night. VM's just spotted another one somewhere over here. There we go. And I think that's November playing around over there. So a lot of the owls, Chris, it depends on the time of the year and your area of Africa that you may be in. But a whole host of different calls can be heard at night, again, depending on the time of the year and also just depending on your luck. Some nights here we hear lions roaring, some nights we don't. The smells of Africa, a lot of dung-like smells, I guess, are typical. No different to that of, I guess, cow dung or horse dung would be a typical kind of smell that a lot of you may be able to relate to. There's some Franklin calling off in the background that you can hear now. What other smells are distinctive of Africa? Now there's, I don't know, it's a very distinctive smell, and a lot of people say that there's no other smell quite like the fresh but earthy air of Africa. But again, a lot will depend on your time of year when you're here, whether you're in winter or summer. But a whole host of wonderful smells and sounds can be heard. If you are interested to hear the sounds of Africa, I guess when the Djuma waterhole camera is up and running, you can just have that playing in the background almost softly while you sleep. And that way you will be able to hear, I guess the time zones aren't going to be right for that, but you could record the sounds of Africa at night and then play them very softly while you're sleeping, and then you can just gently wake up almost as if you are here. So that would be a good way of trying to simulate the sounds of African nights and how they do fluctuate. But the smells are going to be a little bit more for us to, or at least for me, to describe to you. Hello, Dina in Michigan, and you were wondering if there was somebody telling us what to say and where to go. To a degree, it's a team effort, because there is Nikki sitting in the final control room who's being assisted by, I think, Louise this afternoon, who's going through all the questions that get through, and they basically get... it's Kirsty McLennan-Smith in D2, and basically direct 2 filters through questions that they think are applicable, that get fed through to director 1, who then further filters and chooses which questions get sent through to me. Obviously, they don't tell me what to say when answering the question, that's up to me, but we jointly will decide whether to stay in some areas or go. Obviously, Nikki has got a much better idea of how the safari is unfolding because she is seeing what you guys are seeing, not being able to listen to as much as you are because they're coordinating things between the other vehicle. And you can imagine when there are 5 inputs during our TV broadcasts, what chaos and pandemonium reigns in the final control room, because then the director has to keep all the 5 different feeds, the 2 vehicles, the bushwalk, the bush tent, the safari tents, plus the drone, all in the loop, count them into going live. It gets hugely chaotic in there, and I do not want to be, or do not, I do not want to be anywhere near that room on those days because it's incredibly tough business. But on our regular internet drives like this with 2 vehicles, it's a bit more of a calm affair, unless, of course, there's action unfolding on both vehicles. Then it gets a little bit more chaotic and confusing as to what to do. Well, I think it's too dark for us to spend much more time here now, so we're going to head back. I want to see what we can find with the use of a spotlight. And while we get all that equipment out and ready, we are going to send you across to James, who I'm guessing is already in night drive mode.
Now we are on night drive mode, everybody. We're looking for night things. We only have a few minutes left, but what we're looking for, and of course for a long time we haven't been using the spotlights because it was not quite dark by 7 o'clock when we finished. So we're looking for creatures of the night. These would include civets, of which I've seen one here, but their tracks are all over the place during the morning. We might find a white-tailed mongoose on quarantine clearings. We might find a genet, which is a smaller kind of mongoose-like animal. Looks like a cat, but isn't. We might find a leopard, that would be nice. We might find an African wildcat. We could find a chameleon. We could find a bush baby. We could just find the vast expanse of the Kruger National Park free of any kind of sort of obvious vertebrate life during the course of the night. The one positive thing that comes from a drought, if you're a human being shining a light in the night, is the lack of insects careening into your face, creating, acid burns in the eye sometimes, a concussion from dung beetles coming at 60 kilometers an hour from the other direction. And what we'll do, and we'll stop just down here and have a smell and a listen, because Chris, I know that you were asking Scott earlier about what the different smells and sounds of the night are. It changes almost on a daily basis, certainly on a seasonally basis. So let's just stop down. We'll just stop in the clearing over here and we'll have a listen. What we are smelling now, of course, as the water starts to drop gently out of the sky, is petrichor. And petrichor is a word I say at least 4 times a day, because otherwise I forget it. And it is the smell that the earth gives you when it is touched by new rain. Right, let's stop here. Stop bumping around in this car. I can't see what's going on because I'm trying to shine the spotlight. Okay. Now I can definitely smell a little bit of petrichor. That lovely earthy smell that comes when new rain touches the dry earth. You can probably hear the pitter-patter of drizzle, which is a lovely sound out here. You can hear the ubiquitous woodland kingfisher yelling its head off all the time. The odd francolin calling. Some alarm calls. And Carla, you want to see a bush baby. Carla, I'm not sure we can show you. We could try and find a bush baby. We certainly have found a few of late, but not much in the way of. I haven't seen a large number of them recently. Of course, there are the fiery-necked nightjars. I just saw one fly past. Well, it was a nightjar. Whether it was fiery-necked or not, I don't know. But on a cloudy night like this, with a storm kind of brewing, you'll find that the night is a lot more silent than it would be otherwise. We started hearing owls, Scops owls, at the beginning of the season, but they seemed there. There's one. I heard a Scops owl going there. Bloop. Cool. Can you hear it? That's very cool. Now, Mr. Moustache, wondering about where big animals and how big animals like giraffe and elephant can sleep at night. Giraffe can either sleep standing up or they sleep lying down. But when they lie down, they just fold their legs underneath them and they keep their heads dead straight up, because if they don't do that, the pressure build-up on the brain is too much and their brains would explode while they were asleep, which of course nobody really wants to wake up with their exploded brain. So that's the giraffe, but they can sleep standing up. Now, lots of elephants will sleep standing up. The very little ones will lie down, and we had an incredible experience the other day. We were driving along behind a herd of elephants. It was just getting dark, and the herd decided that they'd had enough of the day. They stopped, and all the little ones, 3 or 4 of them, lay down and went to sleep on the ground while the adults just stood around. So elephants can sleep standing up. Otherwise, they'll lie against a termite mound. They often lean against a termite mound. But a big elephant won't spend too much time on its side, because those organs are so massive. And I mean, even with human beings, they tell you don't lie, on your side for too long. It's why we move a lot in bed. Because we're designed to be upright, and an elephant's designed to be upright as well, those huge organs will start to crush each other if they stay on their sides for too long. It's quite interesting. Okay, let's keep driving along a little bit here. See if we can find any bush babies. Little primates. Nicola says that made her insides feel funny, which means she probably won't sleep tonight. She'll be rolling from side to side, worried that her organs are going to be crushed. Oh, I suppose I should turn some lights on. Makes sense, given that it's dark. I'm so pleased we heard that Scops owl. I haven't heard him for a long time. Beginning of the season, when we had that first little bit of rain, they were calling a lot. I think Jamie actually found one, or Jamie or Scott found one. It may have been Brent. I don't know who found one. I just know I didn't find one. Hello, Diane in Texas. You've made my evening for 2 reasons. The first is that you've sent through a question that has made Nicola have to say the word nonchalant, which is wonderful. Thank you for that. And you want to know, you say our birds are very beautiful, and you want to know, do we ever get nonchalant about seeing our magnificent birds? I think we probably do, I think it's inevitable, but half the joy of discovering or rediscovering the beautiful creatures around here with you is that you can't take them for granted, because our viewers, you see them for the first time often, and sometimes for the 10th or 11th or 12th time, 20th time, and you're just as impressed, and that reinvigorates an interest in the things out here. And so while I may see a grey go-away bird and think, it's a grey go-away bird, I had them in the garden growing up, we see them on screen and people ask questions about them and their amazing structure, incredible beak, and the plume on the back of their heads, and suddenly, they're a new world of discovery. So Diane, I suppose we tend towards it as any human would, but driving around here with all of you certainly tends us away from taking anything for granted. Thank you. Don't see any creatures of the night, which is a pity. It's not getting too windy. Nicholas says you can hear the wind in my mic. I think that's because my mic's coming out of my shirt. There we go, Nicola. I hope that's better. Look in all the marula trees to see if there isn't a bush baby. And also see, now the bush babies of course would normally be eating insects at this time of the year, but because there are no insects, or very few, they will have to eat the tree gum and tree bark, or at least acacia gum, that they would normally in the winter. Straight down here. We're going to have a quick look at the dam, the Djuma Dam pan, see what's going on there. See if Karula hasn't popped out at some stage during the afternoon. And while we're doing that, we'll head back to Scott and we will prepare our rain dance in the meantime.
Well, I'm sure a lot of you are eagerly awaiting the rain dance, and that's going to be a great way to finish off the sunset safari. Not too much to report other than the fact that I think there's a couple of Birminghams, possibly all of them in the general area of where Brent found the Nkuhuma Pride to the east of us. So that's good prospects. Hopefully they'll be able to finish off that buffalo cow, the 5 Nkuhuma lioness plus maybe 5 of the Birminghams, and that way they'll maybe come and visit us sometime early tomorrow morning if we're lucky. It'll be great to see all of them again. Aha, Jimmerlin, good evening and great to have you with us. You would like to know how you communicate with guests who cannot speak English, or you cannot speak their language from foreign countries. Books, pictures, you use your mammal book to point at an animal that you can point to indicate that's what you're looking for, you know, points in the book, then they understand. Or you just don't speak to them, really. It's not easy. It's happened to me on a few occasions, but you just, you know, you make do with it. It all depends. It all depends on the individual guests, I guess, and the personality that you strike up with one another, even despite the fact that you cannot speak one another's language. Sometimes, you know, even if you do speak somebody's language, you may be on different wavelengths to them, and therefore, even though you may speak the same language, it doesn't mean that you necessarily get along too well, if that makes any sense. But it hasn't happened too often to me, I guess. A lot will depend on which camp you work at. The camps I've worked at, guests that do come that cannot speak tend to bring translators. Or we actually, at the one camp where I worked, we had a French and Spanish speaking guide that was fully employed there to cover those bases. So you deal with the French and the Spanish speakers. But yeah, it can be a little bit tricky, but it can also be fun to a degree. You and your tracker can just talk freely to one another, and they just chat amongst themselves. A few little raindrops are falling down on us, so that's wonderful, but nothing considerable. We don't have to put the rain cover on. There's just a few, although it's increasing now, so that's good. But sad to say, I don't think it's going to be anything substantial unless I am wrong, which would be great. I hope I am wrong. The Djuma vegetation needs it desperately. Oh, VM, get ready here. There's a bush baby, but it looks like it's already evacuated the area. Just, we may get a glimpse of it as we creep around this corner. It's a small nocturnal primate that is incredibly cute. Where did you skedaddle to, little bush baby? They have the incredible ability to be able to leap huge distances in the dark and can therefore disappear out of view very quickly. Carla, you were asking for a bush baby. Apologies, we got close there, but it hopped away. Maybe there'll be another one. Come on, bush babies. It's been a while since I've got a good view of one with you guys. That is something else, Liam. Liam spotted something in a tree up ahead of us, but it's not what we are looking for. Well guys, it's been great fun as always having you on safari, and hopefully tomorrow morning will bring us some action-packed adventures. I'm not sure whether James or myself is going to be driving. We haven't discussed that yet, but it'll be one of us together with Sam, who you may get to see doing his rain dance shortly. But a big thanks for all of your contributions, questions, and simply joining us on the Sunset Safari. Always great fun. Thank you to Nikki and Kirsty in the final control room, and thank you as well to VM for documenting the adventures along the way. Come on, one last bush baby for Carla, or a chameleon, anything. No, I don't think we're going to get lucky this evening, but that does not matter because you guys are in for an absolute treat, and that is that you're going to see James, possibly David, and possibly Sam, three fine souls doing a ridiculous dance. Sounds like they might be trying to choreograph some moves, because I was told that I'd be able to link to them about 2 minutes ago, but they're still obviously practicing a few things. Here's the girls in final control room. We might be able to snipe you a little gap of them here. Let's see, no, I think they've closed the curtains. But they're somewhere in that little window through that. Oh, there's Nikki, she's poked her head out. Hello. Cool. Okay, so she's directing the show. That's Nicola Austin. And I think they're just practicing one or two final maneuvers. And no, they're ready. So you guys are in for a treat. Have fun, and see you all in the morning. Enjoy the rain dance.
Okay, everybody, there in front of us is the Sam, a man from Cape Town, and David, and I am now going to exit the vehicle. We are going to play a song produced by Brian and me during the course of one of our drives, and we hope that this will bring on the rain. Let's just do a quick sound check here. Thank you so much. That will do. It's enough complete ridiculousness. Right. Exhausting. Well done, fellows. Well done. Stout fellows. Well done. Job. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for a wonderful drive. We'll be going back home now to recover from what was exhausting spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Tomorrow morning, you will be driving with the hand dancer Sam. Big thank you to Dave on camera today. Thanks to Scott and VM on the other vehicle, and of course Nikki and Kirsty in the final control. We'll see you tomorrow at 0500, 0530. Stay safe and happy wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye.